friends, and welcome to another WSIB Truth Matters with Joe Machado on this beautiful Tuesday evening. Beautiful day today. I hope that you've enjoyed this day and you're enjoying your evening. Just going to do a quick video here. This one here is I'm going to talk about adjudicative principles. And so this is a subject that for anyone who's been involved in the business, as a paralegal or a worker representative, they would know this or should know this. Adjudicative principles are part of a policy, a broader policy that WSIB has, which is the adjudication process and what case managers go through in order to make an entitlement decision. Do they do it all the time? Do they follow their policy always? In my experience, not really. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't know what they are and that we should be looking for the same things as representatives. Well, I'm not a representative at this point, but used to be. And I believe that even injured or ill workers should know as well. These are some of the basic things that can help avoid some of the pitfalls when making a claim for benefits with the WSIB. So I'm going to try to keep it simple, but then you can always refer to this video at any point if you have any questions, or if you know somebody who's going through it or has had a recent claim, you can share it with them. So the first part I'm going to talk about is what they call the 5-point checklist. And it's very, very basic. It's actually, most of it is just really common sense. But the first point in that 5-point checklist is that there's an employer, obviously. Maybe not so obvious, because some employers aren't enrolled in the system, although it may be mandatory. So in the first checklist, they have what's defined as an employer, which is under policy 120101. What I'm talking about now is under policy 110101. I'm going to put that on the screen here. But to look at whether you're with a legitimate employer or an employer that is mandated by the law. Some aren't. Then look at 120101. That's the policy. So there's an employer. Number 2, a worker. There are 2 categories. There's workers and there are independent operators. And that's defined under policy 120201. But there's a personal work-related injury. Obviously, that's verified through your Form 7, which is the accident employer report, Form 6, which is your report of injury, and the Form 8, which is your doctor's report of injury. And then the last point is the compatibility of the diagnosis or accident or disablement. Or disablement history. So an accident, a chance event, for example, something that happens on the spot, a fall, you lift something, you pull a muscle. These are things that happen, what they call a chance event. A disablement is something that happens over a period of time. So, for example, a repetitive strain injury, if you work in a manufacturing line and you're doing a lot of repetitive motion, or if you're working in a poultry plant, for example, and you're cutting. These are just two examples that I can come up with. There's more, but these are things that happen over a period of time. That would be considered a disablement. And then they look at whether or not it's compatible to what you're claiming, to the diagnosis that your doctor is providing on the Form 6. The Form 8. So when they're going through this process, they look for proof of accident. That's generally provided on the Form 7, the employer's report, or your report, Form 6. If there are any witnesses to the accident, that also is very helpful to make sure that they're written down on the report. Don't just leave it to chance that, oh, I probably won't need it. It's obvious. They'll know it was an accident. If there's witnesses, always try to get 1 or 2 on the report. The other thing is discrepancies between the date of accident and the date that you stop working. If there's any delay in those dates, you have to be able to explain those. And it's normal that you might have a minor accident, and you think that it's going to go away with a few days rest, and you don't require time off work. It's important to note those things down, because when they look at it, they want to see that when you stopped working, it's as a result of the date that you had an injury, and that was the cause of you having to stop work. And the other thing that is important is they look at whether or not there was a delay in the onset of symptoms and when you sought medical attention. So again, it's normal to have, just a simple muscle pull or a minor injury that you don't think is going to be problematic, and you just go on about your work. But if it does become problematic, it's important to have those dates and be able to provide that, so that when they're going through this adjudicative process, everything lines up. Otherwise, this is where problems start, and they get bigger if they're not addressed relatively quickly. But the main one that I really want to touch on, because these other ones are sort of common sense, is if it's not clear that it is a disablement, and there's a diagnosis provided, or there isn't a diagnosis provided, a clear diagnosis, and a clear description of that disablement, so what you were doing to cause that, and when symptoms began. It's important, very important, to put those down, because if the case manager or the person who's going to make a decision has to rely on what they have, they're going to go to their own WSIB clinical staff, medical people that you hear me say all the time shouldn't be there, and they're going to try and get an opinion from them, and that's a no-no. You don't want that. They haven't treated you, they haven't seen you. You don't want that happening. You want to make sure that that information is provided by your doctor. And don't ever take this for granted, because they'll go get that opinion and they'll rely on it. And then it's going to be much harder to undo that. So that's why I'm going to touch on the Form 8, which is your doctor's report of injury. And there are 2 sections in the Form 8. I'm going to put that up here on the screen so you can see. That is important that you sit down with your doctor and make sure that those 2 sections are filled out with as much detail as possible, so that they are forced to use your doctor's report, and that at any point in the future where entitlement or anything comes into question, you can always rely on that and not have them by default go with one of their doctors, because that happens way too often. As far as I'm concerned, is bullshit. Even after your doctor sends in information later on in the claim. So they like to do that. So these sections are Section B and Section C. The incident dates and details. So you want to make sure that your doctor fills that out in detail. And then Section C, which is clinical information section, and you're going to see these. They've got a circle in red around them, so that you can really focus on those when you either meet with your doctor or you're trying to correct something that's been done previously that wasn't done properly. You want to make sure that you will pay attention to these items because they're very important. The description of the injury, the findings and the physical examination, they have to be as thorough as possible. And I know sometimes the doctors don't want to do it. It's tedious and all that, but make sure that they do that because it's going to save you a lot of time and headaches down the road. On number 3 here on Section C at the bottom, are you aware of any pre-existing condition or other conditions? You want to make sure that your doctor fills that in because you don't want them to assume that you have a back injury that caused problems now that is all of a sudden related to some pre-existing condition that was asymptomatic. You weren't having any issues with it. And their doctor will blame it on that, believe me, if this isn't filled in properly. And then number 4, within that same section is a clear diagnosis. Now, sometimes it's difficult for a doctor to make a clear diagnosis right off the first visit. If they're not able to do that, make sure that the doctor puts in that testing is being done in order to define a clear diagnosis, but that there's something being done by the doctor to get that done. So don't leave it to chance and don't let the doctor leave it blank because this is going to save you a lot of headaches down the road. Okay, friends. So anyway, those are the adjudicative principles. The more you know about them, the easier it is for you to deal with issues in your claim. And even if you had a claim that was a year ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago, if there are problems with respect to what the WSIB is accepting or not accepting in terms of entitlement, you can always go through that doctor's report to see what's there. And whatever wasn't there, try to get that information clarified if you're trying to get entitlement to an area of injury that wasn't noted before. Okay, so coming up tomorrow, big announcement by WSIBsettlements.com. I'll be making an announcement on my channel here about a feature that we're adding to our one-of-a-kind iWin WSIB app that our members use to manage every aspect of their claim and get the support they need to deal with the WSIB. It's going to address any issues that the WSIB can throw at you in terms of appeal time limits. 6 months that they currently have, the 30 days they're going to try to force on you. That I'm sure they're already working on it. This feature, which has taken a lot of thought, a lot of experience to put it together, to make it very easy, very simple for anyone to use. We're going to announce that tomorrow. We're very excited about that. There isn't one injured worker in this province that if they have our app and they're a part of WSIBsettlements.com should have any issues with appeal time limits whatsoever. Okay, and then there's all kinds of other features with our app. If you're new to my channel or if you haven't been to WSIBsettlements.com yet and you're not aware of it, by all means, visit WSIBsettlements.com. There's a video that talks all about our docs that are used to address any issue with the WSIB that you may have, the simplicity and how to use them, just all kinds of stuff. So by all means, have a look. I'm going to put the address here on the screen, WSIBsettlements.com. And tomorrow I'm going to do some Q&A. So if you have questions about your particular case that you would like answered, send me an email today at at WSIBsettlements.com as to what your question is. I'll address it on tomorrow's video. And also, friends, I want to be able to reach every single injured worker in Ontario. I want them to be prepared to deal with anything that the WSIB throws at them, whether their injury was 30 plus years ago, or whether it was yesterday, or whether they haven't had an injury yet. I want to be able to touch everyone and impart all of the information and over 30 years of experience that I have, having built one of the largest or the largest paralegal firm in Ontario with over 10,000 clients and over $300 million in settlements. I have a lot to offer, and it's free to subscribe to this channel at WSIB Truth Matters. Doesn't cost you anything, and please share it with others. You may be throwing them a lifeline. You know, people may be in remote areas. Maybe they don't have a good support structure around them. They may be in a situation where it's difficult for them, and you may not know about it. But if you share this and throw them a lifeline, you might be helping somebody else. And on a positive note, the case that I was talking about yesterday, the gentleman who has PTSD and the employer and WSIB have been screwing him around. You got part of it resolved today in a good letter from the manager. We were at the level 2 of the reconsideration process. He got some really positive news, and we should have the rest of it resolved, I would say, probably within a very short period of time. So some good news to share there. I know a lot of people have already been helped by watching my videos and communicating with me, and I want to do a lot more of that. So please, thumbs up if you like my videos, share them with everybody you know, and please subscribe to my channel so I can reach my goal and touch everybody in Ontario. All right, friends, and as always, have an amazing evening. Take care.